Just on the fly?
Yeah, on the fly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start moving us north if you're comfortable.
Yeah, can you zoom out one hot
Sure.
second?
We know what's here, which is good.
Yeah, and we'll get some visual, and if there's some cool stuff, we can drop some markers.
So I'll be going contour parallel to there, and then I'll be putting, if we get up there, putting in another move to cut us that way as soon as we get to the bend.
Sure. Then I'll just kind of ride up slope, and then kind of I can reposition myself so that I'm up slope, so you don't have to do any more pulling off the wall. Because it looks like everything bends outwards.
Can we zoom in on that thing in the middle of the screen?
Which thing?
One more operational note. Rennie was finding the most success tracking a line and just changing bearing. So
is it above or below the layer?
Now it's above.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
So above the lasers?
Sort of disc looking.
It's nothing crazy anyway, Jess. Like I said, if we can just stay in or off the wall just by going up or down a bit.
Yeah, go ahead and zoom on in their video.
So I'm going to start going at 005.
Is that a predatory
and then we
tunicate?
might step it in if we can.
I think that's a predatory
like
tunicate. Yeah, I think it's a predatory tunicate.
Yeah, is that
that's
right?
pretty. Yeah, we've seen them down here before, but we haven't seen any. I haven't noticed any
bridge nav
on our watch before.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, thank you for that zoom.
Sure, go ahead and come wide.
You can see its little hole.
Can we hit it with the lasers?
See it? It's about 10 centimeters.
Did you get a still with the lasers in it?
Yeah.
Okay, we got that.
005, Rog. I'll just do a quick pan here.
That's great.
And then you can see some of your deposited eelgrass above.
Interesting how much eelgrass and kelp we've seen out here. So this looks different than the other one in that it's more undulating. Yeah, weathered. That's a good way to put it.
Stick your head down there before we go. Let's see.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like as good as the other one anyway.
It's not nearly as straight down.
Yeah, this one's kind of just like a layer cake that's kind of droopy frosting, you know what I'm saying?
Droopy frosting. Whereas the other one, they had one of those cake spinning trays so that when you're doing the frosting, you can get it nice and flat.
Yeah, right,
Is that how they do that?
Yeah, that one was professionally done. This one's
exactly.
So homemade.
A DIY.
Well, so
DIY.
We have a Lazy Susan up in the cabinet. I never thought of using it. My daughter we're making her birthday cake, and she's been watching baking shows, and she's like, "Can we get some way to turn it?" So I took that down, and she made this beautiful looking cake. I was like, "Oh, you should just make your birthday cakes." Well, I make the cake, she frosts it, and it looks way better than if I were to frost it.
How old is your daughter?
She's now 12.
Oh, cool. All right, that's pretty much as far down as I'll go here.
Okay, that's really interesting and a good view.
Sure. See any big boulders down there?
No.
Wow, look at it. Just keeps going, though. Some overhangs, another really large black coral there.
Yeah. That bearing was 005, correct?
Yep, 005.
All right, someone out there in Nautilus Live Nation writes, here's what gets me. 2 miles of cable, state-of-the-art ROVs, millions more in tech, the best science crew on the planet.
Video, go ahead and push on in, please.
And a stabilized satellite dish that, among other things, beams my silly comments to be read and written into the historic video record of mankind's first exploration of this unseen world. Wow, we aren't worthy.
What a nice way to put
it.
I love it.
Yes, you are. That was beautifully written. Love it.
See the texture. Okay, go ahead and come a little bit wide there.
Just a moment ago, I didn't want to interrupt that beautiful thing, but
you can push on a bit there.
One anemone to the left, there might be a benthic siphonophore next to it.
That little orange guy? Yeah, I was looking at
here
him too.
Oh, to the left.
Yeah, we saw it earlier.
I think we're past it.
I didn't know there were benthic siphonophores.
I don't know if we can see it now. It might be a little bit out of view. Where?
There he is.
There it is.
That little one?
Yep.
So there's a big anemone, and to its right, there's a kind of orangish red.
Sorry.
Oh, that, okay.
Do you see it?
Is it the little ball looking thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
go ahead and zoom on in their video. How's the ship doing?
There it is.
Oh.
So that
is that free floating or is that attached?
No, it's attached.
It's beautiful.
It's got an interesting
spike.
Those lasers are 10 centimeters apart. which allows us to get the measurements
Oops,
So
sorry.
that's a benthic
of the
siphon.
things that we're
Yeah,
seeing.
there's, so that's a colonial organism. There are 2 in the field guide. One is Physophora hydrostatica, and one is Staphylia dilata. And I'm thinking this looks more like oh, no, sorry. And the third one, I think
Wanna
that's
come a
this
little
one,
wide there, please?
Thermopalia
that's good.
taraxaca. Yeah, I think that's the one that it is. So
Okay.
THERMO.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for the zoom.
Sure.
Beautiful shot.
Do you want me to just pan around
Nice
with the
job,
zoom in
Ashley.
a little bit? You can see the texture of the surface. And
Yeah. And there's
that a
another
red
one of
shrimp?
those red shrimp. Hello, red shrimp.
Ashley, can
Go
you
ahead and push
put
on
the
in if you want on the
lasers
shrimp.
or back on the
There you go.
anemone? Is
Um,
that possible? It
Jess
just
might be
seemed
able
like
to.
I mean, it might have been coincidental, but the anemone responded with when the lasers were on it.
Sorry, did
Maybe.
you get the taxonomy on that?
Did you get, it's up to science.
No,
Science,
it's
did you
great.
guys
I
want
can
that?
enter it
No,
now.
I think we're good on the zoom.
All right,
Thank
go
you.
and come wide, please. All right, as we come wide, doesn't look like it affects it there, Scott.
No, just
Maybe
coincidental.
some current.
Probably got a
or
little
some
fluid
thruster.
there or
Yeah.
something.
Maybe some thruster or something.
All right, coming around here.
So time check, we got about 20 more minutes on the pump. And then we're going to turn it off.
How's the ship doing there?
Just started to
Oh,
get a
we were
move
doing
going.
940
Roger.
UCT time.
Yes.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
No.
I think it would be 9:38 because the pump was off for about 8 minutes, but
Okay.
I don't know how accurate. Like,
I think
9:40.
let's do 940 just to be
Yeah.
safe. He wanted his 10 hours. We'll get him 10 hours and possibly
And
2
2
more,
minutes.
2-minute buffer.
One of our viewers feels like the red shrimp are now just taunting us.
Oh, well, we're getting some good video and hopefully that will be helpful.
Yeah.
We'll taunt you.
Wonder if they've been communicating with each other on the World Wide Wet. Watch out for Hercules. They're trying to get us.
Just one, but you know,
They're difficult. I mean,
they're very difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let me
like,
know
I
when they're
had
getting up to speed.
I mean, if you felt a
Sure will
vacuum
do.
sucking you in,
It's still fluctuating.
I
quite
would
well.
You
swim
go the
away.
other way.
I would.
I'll just kind of zigzag until
You
we
don't
get
know
up
what's
to
on the
speed,
other
then
end
I'll
of that
stay on
vacuum.
heading. Thanks, Erin.
Yep, no worries.
Good. Jason's sharing some really cool stats with us about the number of views this last year. The gulper eel had 3,142,319 views.
Oh my goodness.
wow.
Most viewed Nautilus video for this year, translucent deep stereo whorls with
It's holding
resident
between
isopod
0.3 and 0.5.
had
I
1
think we're
million,
trucking.
Okay, great, thank you.
50,628 in just 1 month.
Are these on the Nautilus
Wow.
Live website, or are these through the YouTube channel?
That's a really good question.
Well, all
I'm sure
those,
Jason's going to
I
I
shoot it
think
back
all those
to us.
videos are hosted on YouTube.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just
cool
available
view.
through the web, so
Cool.
hopefully it's counting all the views. That's a very large anemone. You can see that when you see the 10 centimeters there.
Yeah.
But this is a very different looking cliff.
All I can think
Yeah.
of is
Last
droopy
one.
cake frosting now.
Yeah. Got cake on the brain, huh? But this one has more black corals than the other one.
Strike's interesting of this guy. It's very broken up.
You mean these like kind of short steps?
Yeah, they're pretty broken. I wonder how aged this is, how weathered.
Do you think the other one maybe looked like this before the faulting and then it kind of thrust that whole section out, maybe?
Yeah, very possibly.
I have no idea. It could just be a looser consolidation of sediment that lets it slump more.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Maybe a different consistency.
I'll stay over here as we start. I'll just parallel you, Mike.
Or maybe like the energy that caused the other one to fracture like that wasn't as great at this site, and so it didn't have such a clean break.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, control, van, check in. The question is from our Nautilus Live Nation, do you like sushi? I'm Scott, I'm the Science Communication Fellow. The answer is yes. Ashley, do you like sushi?
Yeah, I love sushi, but
No
now I
buts.
know too much, so I feel like I eat it less and less. But really good sushi once in a while, I love.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I love sushi. Eat a lot of it.
Excellent. Jess?
Yeah, I'm a big sushi fan, especially on like the little roe eggs. Those are, they like little popcorn.
Yep.
Especially when I get off the ship.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
it's like a raw food, really like beautiful and delicious. It's a good treat.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Aaron?
Yeah, I love sushi. Love poke. All delicious.
My favorite too.
Ooh, poke. Yeah.
Magda?
Yes. However, recently I'm trying to be more aware of where the fish is coming from and is it more sustainably caught or not. It's hard to get that information, but I try to. I got spoiled when I lived in Hawaii. I knew people who caught fish and I trusted them, so it was nice to get like fresh fish from them.
Locally sourced.
Yeah.
Can we zoom
Excellent.
in?
I love sushi.
Can we zoom in just a little above the lasers?
Yeah, on this guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Annie?
I love sushi. I like to eat it inverted to maximize the flavor potential.
See, doesn't that look kind of like a baby black coral?
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
And
I
Jennifer?
can see the black spot.
At sushi restaurants, I tend to eat, I don't eat a lot of raw fish. I don't eat that much fish in general, so I'm trying to minimize my consumption of higher trophic level and, eat lower down on the food web. So, but I do like vegetarian sushi and tempura vegetables and things like that.
I think you just
Are you guys
slide
good
in
on this
place.
view here?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Go ahead and cut my video. Stir up a cloud.
Jennifer, do we know the
Away.
life cycle of these black coral? I know most common corals of the tropics have sort of a, multi-stage life history.
Well, it was kind of interesting when I was recently out with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute looking at deep sea corals. One of the health metrics they were using was looking to see whether they could see eggs inside the polyps. And so those polyps do form eggs. Those eggs are released, fertilized, and then they turn into a little swimming larva called a planula larvae. And that will have limited dispersal ability, but it needs to find somewhere that it can settle down and grab on to a hard rock. So around here, that's why we're not seeing a lot of black corals, because they have to find a good spot where they can attach and then slowly start to grow into this larger stalked form of a colonial animal. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure. But you can see how they're pretty good at finding places to hold on where they're available.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder how many don't successfully settle.
Probably a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean, one of these corals, when they were looking and they had a lot of eggs, many of the polyps had eggs. So if you think about it, they're going to release a lot of larvae, and most of those will not survive, but a few will.
So when we have been seeing these, some of these corals, you've been able to recognize eggs on them?
Oh, I'm just kind of starting to, I was kind of seeing what they were seeing. Yeah, they would say, oh, that one has, 50% of the polyps have eggs. And I was like, really? So I don't have the trained eye for that yet.
Is that the Erica Amanda crew? Do you recognize that?
No, I'm trying to remember his name, and Mbari who was doing that. But I'm sure Erica and Amanda have a more trained eye than I do to find that. Be able to see those things. Like, this is only my third time down looking at live video from deep habitats. So first time was with Nautilus last year, and then that one cruise with Mbari, and now back here. So I still have a lot to learn.
Oh, were you out in August on that cruise?
Yes.
Yeah. the Western Flyer, that's the one with the moon pool, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ROVs are launched from the belly of the vessel.
Annie,
Yes.
are there any books that you would recommend for our viewers on marine life that would help them identify some of the creatures we're seeing in their names?
Typically when I have to identify the deep sea videos that I analyze at a different site in the Pacific, I use a lot of the online guides. So Mombari's got a really good one. The Hawaii, the University of Hawaii has a really nice one. As far as books go, it's hard because these discoveries are being made all the time, so the internet actually gets updated a lot more quickly than the publications. Although for a general informational book on octopus, The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery is a really neat collection of kind of her experience of interacting with people who work at aquariums and research institutes, and then it's also, you know, littered with informational facts and little excerpts about detailed information and scientifically backed information about the octopuses themselves. So that's a pretty nice read.
All right, thanks so much. The little white crabs that we're seeing are called squat lobster.
Or Galatheid crabs.
Or Galathea crabs.
They
I think I just
lobster
learned
per
from our
se,
dive
but-
earlier, yes, that they are not lobster, actually they're crabs. That there are a couple of different species, and one of our goals is to try and get video of them to try and identify the different species that we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. We can get. I think we've already gotten some good close-ups of some of them. We're mostly seeing this one species that is white all over, with the little pale orangish yellow eyes. We haven't seen.
We saw one like off-white one in more close to the venting in the octopuses.
Yeah, and they collected a much different looking Galatheid crab there. This is in this dive, our first stocked crinoid. This
I
yellow,
love these things.
5-armed yellow crinoid. And the 5
Ashley,
arms helps you to know that they're related to sea stars and other echinoderms.
The common name for this, is this a feather star?
Yes, crinoids are often called feather stars.
I think the feather stars are the ones that we see crawling around on the bottom though, yeah?
Yeah.
More commonly.
And this one you can see is attached to the seafloor and stocked. That's a nice view, thank you.
Now crinoids are neat, right? Because if you look in the
Ashley.
sedimentary record, you don't actually see the feathery part. All you see typically is the stalk that survives in the record. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
But that 5-part symmetry is very typical of the whole group of echinoderms, the sea stars, sea cucumbers, brittle stars, feather stars, etc.
Pentameric morphology.
Can we just quickly look to the right?
Down
Sure.
the slope.
Those are just shadows that I was seeing. There wasn't actually anything else there.
If you look in the Herc view, you are actually seeing a little bit of a drop off, but it's just very slight.
Yeah.
Not the Argus view, I mean.
Anything else you want to see over here?
No, that was something was playing tricks on my eyes.
Roger that.
If you're like me and many in the Nautilus Live Nation and are going to be jonesing for underwater exploration during the off season, we do have entire dives archived on YouTube, and so you can binge watch anytime you'd like.
Well, this feature is just going on and on, but not not with the sharp cliffs that we saw earlier.
On October 20th, the National Geographic is airing their show where they came to the Nautilus and they were using ASB Ben to look for Amelia Earhart's plane.
Ah, yes.
So that will be one way to get your fix on Nautilus and deep sea exploration.
We're also using a lot of ROVs for that too. I don't want ASV to beat ASV Ben to get all the credit.
Okay, yes. ROVs too. Thanks, Erin.
What's the difference?
ASV Ben is
Good question.
a surface mapping platform. That's autonomous, a 15-person autonomous team.
Really? It takes 15 people to run it?
No, that was sarcasm,
Oh.
sorry. It was, I think
Last
it was
year we
a
had,
3 to
like
5
3?
person
Yeah.
team.
Yeah,
But-
so the ROVs are remotely operated vehicles, and then the AUVs are autonomous.
That's an
Um,
ASV actually. This
I'm
one.
sorry.
Yeah, but you're right. AUVs are also autonomous, but sorry, just to clarify, this was an autonomous surface vehicle for mapping.
Basically, you just set it and forget it.
Yeah, theoretically.
So do you,
Theoretically.
are they run simultaneously? That would be too dangerous, right?
No.
If you had ASV.
They're not run simultaneously. We did ASV ops in the day.
Yeah, we've talked
Yeah.
about doing that. It's a future challenge that I think will be attempted at some point.
Don't you use the maps from the ASV then, or the data from there to determine where to send the ROVs?
To a point,
Yeah.
yeah. To a point, yeah. It was more like to cover the really shallow zones that we couldn't get the ROVs to.
Okay.
So it was like a team effort of the robots.
Robots, yeah. We had a bunch of drones too.
That's great.
Doing imagery, and we were scanning through the imagery, see if we could see anything. Divers in the water, made all kinds of things. Dogs,
So
exciting.
Nautilus as itself was a really multi-versatile platform for doing all those types of different research methods.
Unfortunately, the dogs were on the other ship. I was a little disappointed.
The what? The
Oh, yeah,
dogs.
that would have been nice, huh?
But they were pretty cute.
Just up ahead, I think we have one of those large,
The Borrelia.
yeah, large Medusa down on the seafloor
Go ahead and zoom
there.
on in their bit video if you want.
Is that a Porophilus
That's good.
refusens?
I think Borrelia
Rufescens.
Rufescens.
There it is.
Yep, they're really beautiful.
jelly of
We've
my
been seeing them
dreams.
Come a little
regularly.
way. Let me just get my angle.
I wonder
Okay,
if they
go
have
ahead
a
and
bad
push on in there a
sting
bit.
based on all their
Sorry?
underbelly.
You can go ahead and push
Yeah,
on
I
in a
don't
bit there
know.
more.
Never touched one.
Look at that. So cool.
Yeah.
That's a,
Thank you.
I can come right there, Ashley.
How far down from the top of this feature do we think we are? Is that the top just in view? Or
Can you zoom in on that funny little two-leg thing that's sticking out of the
Funny
outcrop?
little two-legged
Yeah, to the left of
thing.
those two anemones, just to the diagonal of that sea star.
now above the
Right
lasers,
there.
is that
Right
what you
there.
mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Ashley, go ahead and start your zoom.
Oh, it's a
It's a coral.
it's a coral. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's thanks for the zoom.
So much tricks the eye down here.
Yeah.
It's hard
Yeah.
to tell until we look closely sometimes what things are.
Might be the fact that it's 2:45 in the morning as well.
You think? We're fresh. We're fresh.
I got my lost ground here.
It's feeling a little like that moose octopus we saw a little earlier.
It's really neat just looking off in the distance, seeing those kind of where it's left, and you see, look, reminds me so much of the sections of the California coast. If you've ever been to Point Reyes in the Drake's Bay area, the beach is just backed by these cliffs of that are sedimentary. It's really beautiful, and that view there reminded me of it.
Scott, there's a good chance that that octopus that we saw on this transect was not actually moose octopus.
That's, yes.
Because the
I do stand corrected.
sucker
Yep.
density was much lower.
Yeah, and the bulbous
Kind of had that
eyes.
zigzag, so it may have, it's more in line with the Granellodon genus, but we can't really be sure. That's just speculation.
Is that the genus where they found that they brooded for over 50 months?
Yeah, 54 months. That was
Wow.
Octomom.
Octomom.
Is what she was nicknamed, and that was a paper that came out in 2014 by Robeson.
Bruce Robeson from Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Yeah.
Maybe 2010 for the publication date.
They regularly checked on Octomom. And that just shows you the importance of being able to do regular deep sea exploration.
And what
How deep was she brooding? What
Do you
depth?
remember?
Oh, I think she's between 2,000 and 3,000 meters, but
Oh,
I really
wow.
have to look it up.
But she was probably, I think it was probably in the Monterey Bay Submarine Canyon. So even though it's really deep, they can access it from the lab pretty easily because the canyon's so close to shore in Monterey. Ooh, this looks really cool.
What was really neat about Octomom is she had a really distinctive mark on her that enabled them to identify that octopus as being the same one, whereas at the site that we're looking at Davidson, there's not, I don't think we've particularly noticed an octopus that has a really distinctive feature.
Well, it's hard because of the brooding posture. You can't really see their mantle very well, and you can't consistently see the same section of mantle. If you came back, you couldn't expect that you would see the same portion of the animal.
Right.
So there was that one male we saw at one point that had a mangled arm. And you're thinking,
that looks like an octopus.
Octopus. There's another one. Oh, it's like they heard. They heard us and we're coming.
Here they are.
Here we go.
All right, guys, shout out to Japan. Jennifer Simon and Joy Simon, my sister and my mother, are on vacation there and they're watching.
All right, just in time for a cool octo sighting.
Can we get a zoom in on one of the arms, please?
Sure, go ahead and zoom.
Do you think this is a...
3, 4, 5, 6.
I think this is a moose octopus. See how the density on those suckers is a lot higher?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. The eyes are kind of that bulbous.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing myself.
What I was noticing is we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 arms. That third arm is
hidden
from us.
As usual.
So we would use that third arm to determine if this was a male or female. I don't know. The eyes to me don't look like the moose octopus eyes.
Did you guys get your screenshots there?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know.
Oh, did we get lasers?
No, I didn't get. Okay, there we go.
Get it real quick.
And it's
Got it?
interesting
Yep.
that third arm is not visible.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's more like the moose octopus than a
You do?
gorilla.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is hard to tell.
All right. All right, we're at 9:41. Should we turn off the pump?
Yes. Thank you for the reminder.
You want it pump secured?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, pump's off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
If you're wondering what pump we're talking about, we have been running a pump that's been pumping water for us for now 10 hours on this dive. And that water is going to be going through a filter and some membranes to collect persistent organic pollutants that might be in the water, so that we can get a better understanding of the water quality out here.
Interesting. Okay, going back. Sorry guys, I just fell behind a little bit. I'm just gonna make up some ground here.
Okay. That was interesting though when you panned left, so when you're able to again look that way, I just see what else we can see upslope.
Yeah, sure.
Jennifer, I have a question. So in our science meeting, one of the things that we talked about were these waypoints that we're following here on the southeast apron of the Davidson Seamount in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And so this area was only mapped 2 years ago. How did you guys decide on the waypoints? Did it have to do with sort of an interesting aspect of the geography of those specific areas, that the probability would be that we might find something interesting there? Or
yeah, so we were looking at the maps, and this year, having found last year the octopus garden and having also done the earlier parts of that dive, we got a little bit of a sense of the seafloor types we might encounter. And so then Chad, our lead scientist for this cruise, was looking at the mapping and trying to find locations that we could move between where we might encounter more diverse terrain than the less diverse terrain. So trying to minimize going over just a lot of really kind of flat, muddy bottom, instead trying to bring us into areas like this where the map suggested we had topographic relief, potentially rocky bottom, potentially interesting biology.
Yeah.
That might vary. But those waypoints are suggestions. We're not married to them. If we see something really fascinating, we can go check it out. And so there's a lot of kind of on-the-fly decision-making that the different watches are doing. Well, so in this case, you know, we've been taking some time to explore more closely some of these features, but now we're going to try and keep moving to the next waypoint, which has looks interesting again from the maps. Between here and there, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more flat, and than it will be when we get to the next waypoint.
So I looked up to confirm about Octomom. I was a little wrong on the depth. She was only found at 1397 meters, so that's about half the depth that we're at now. And the paper was published in 2014 by Robeson, Seibel, and Jeffrey Drazen.
And it was 54 months, right? And how many times did they, 53 months, how many times were they able to go back?
Hold on, I gotta read a little further for that.
Yeah.
We returned to the site 18 times over the ensuing 4.5 years. Each time we returned, we found the same octopus. This is directly reading from the paper.
Can we zoom at the pink on top of the, at the top of that promontory?
So 18 times I saw that.
Fly trap?
Yeah, the fly trap. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That is cool.
Usually they have a stalk in the, like, attached to something, but I don't know what it's
It almost looks like it's attached to the skeleton, maybe of a dead black coral.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead and combine, please.
We haven't seen many of those.
No.
No, I feel like when we've seen them kind of together.
We saw a few, like, initially, like, there was a bunch of them on, like, one lone rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, remember when
Sandy.
we switched shifts and Chad showed you the picture on his phone?
Oh.
And it had one.
Oh, is that what was on there?
Yeah.
I must have been paying attention to another thing. So that, they're calling it a warty anemone here. But
I feel like the one we saw had a lot less warts.
yeah, I agree.
Like a
Yeah.
smooth skin anemone.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty neat feature.
Not sure it's the one that's in the guide. Oh, look at that little cluster. Oh, and there's a kelp
Go ahead and zoom on in their video.
frond that's kind of draped over these anemones.
That's good.
Fronds like these.
That's good.
Who needs anemones?
Oh, did you hear that, Scott? That's right up your alley.
I'm sorry, I did not.
Okay, we gotta say it. You gotta say it again.
Oh no.
Finding
I just
Nemo.
said, I quoted Finding Nemo. With fronds like these, who needs anemones?
Ah, very good.
That's good.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, go ahead and
Can we
combine
turn the
there.
lasers off for a second?
Oh,
That's just
sure.
a really pretty shot.
Yeah. Looks like a
All right.
bouquet.
Thank you. And I understand if you need to get going.
So one of
Yeah,
our
we'll
viewers
need to get going now, but
Yep.
wanted to know
Thank
how
you.
long,
sure.
how much time is left in this
Click 'em up
dive
a
and
little
when
bit, I
the
think.
next one is. So we began this dive about 13 hours and 25 minutes ago. We reached the bottom, and we've been on the bottom for about 9 3/4 hours right now. Our goal is to do about a 32-hour dive, so that's
Yeah.
from the time we start descending until we reach the surface.
Cool.
So we've got about 20
look at the
hours
Argus
left
view.
in this dive.
It looks like a big scarp. It just kind of goes
Oh,
in there.
look at that.
Which means
Look
there's
at
probably
those
a
sonar
nice
target.
chunk below it.
Sonar is cool.
Oh, yeah. And as mentioned earlier, this dive, H1796,
Get in
is
there.
our last dive of
Oh, wow.
the season. So it'll be about 6 months before our next dive.
Sponges.
Big sponge. Wow.
Good overhang.
There's a really large sponge on the right.
So it's neat because you can see that this area is scarped off, and then you can see that sediment's been filling in. So this is a relatively old feature.
Yeah.
You get at least probably what we think. Oh, no, you'd have to get a measure on the sediment. I mean, it could also be just a slump of sediment fell on it right away, so it might not be that old, but oh, the possibilities. Is that would that be a dead sponge, that brown one?
Looks like it, yeah.
Yep, I think you're right.
Cool feature.
So this feature again was bright pink on that one map. So that, what did you say that the part of the map that's showing the colors, that layer, what's that called?
That's a slope map.
Slope map. Okay. Whoa, hello.
Look at that.
Wow.
Pow.
Ooh, yellow sponge.
Oh.
Ooh,
It's a
I wonder if that-
diversity.
dirty wall. Or is that just the coloring?
Over this wall, though.
I think it's the shadowing.
A question here, is it possible to get sonar on the quad screen?
Whoa.
A viewer is asking.
Should be.
Coming up some
Yeah,
more.
I think I can try and do that in a sec if it's okay with Nav.
Oh yeah. Wow.
We're gonna give it a shot in just a sec.
Mike, is that a zoomed in sonar that you have in front of you?
Which one? The one up here?
No, the one right in front of the
This
screen.
one?
Yeah.
That right now is on 30 meter range. It's just lower on the vehicle.
Okay.
So it doesn't, it's no good for a 360. It'll only give us the 180 out front, but it shows it's good for stuff that's like right in front of us. This other one up here is right on top, so it kind of looks down and,
Okay.
and up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
It looks like from Argus this just sticks out a little bit.
There's all sorts of chunks missing.
And it just keeps going.
It's interesting. You can see maybe little animal tracks on the top of that. Oh, there's lines on the Argus view.
Oh, yeah.
Indentations in the sediment.
Oh, that looks so
You're back
cool.
230 meters.
Roger.
FYI.
So we are on the 12 to 4 watch, meaning we watch from
So
12 to 4 a.m. and 12 to 4 p.m. And one of the
Steps.
questions we had during the descent was, are you a journey or destination person? And this has just been the most incredible journey. Seeing these shelves or steps.
And CUR, Rob.
So we lucked out because they didn't have nearly as much of this really cool stuff on the last watch. So we're just feeling really lucky
Well, they
here.
said they did 2.5 kilometers, right? So they couldn't have seen anything.
Well,
We're stopping for. It doesn't sound like they stopped very much.
well, no, they didn't, but I don't think they had these kinds of targets to.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but
Terrible watch.
they did find one, but basically they found it at a time when they couldn't really stop and smell the roses. They set us up to stop and smell the roses
That's right.
at the beginning of our watch, which was nice. Now we're trying to do the same for the next watch and keep seeing this interesting feature while making better time up to another waypoint.
You know, if we time this right,
Can we peek at the seafloor down there? Is that no octopus down
Down to
there?
the
That's
right?
just anemones. Never mind.
Oh,
They
okay.
came into view and it was fine.
if we time this right, we could make it so that on our next watch, we're at waypoint dive 2.
Uh,
That big
here.
crater looking thing.
we
Yeah.
would be very, very lucky to do that, I think. Though this area over here looks pretty interesting too.
Perfect for the other
But
watches.
but I would like to see that calm. So as far as Scott, I think you asked when that dive was going to end.
One of our viewers was asking, yeah.
Yeah, and we have some ideas of when it might end, but we're also watching the weather.
Yes.
There's some swell that's going to be coming our way, and our goal is to have the vehicles on deck before it reaches us. And then we'll be heading to south to San Pedro,
Yep.
where we'll disembark.
You know what we're not seeing in these cliffs, and I'm a little surprised?
What?
Is canyons. So we're not, there's no...
Yeah.
I mean, we just saw that little, would you not call that a canyon?
No, I'd call that like a scarp.
Uh-huh.
But the canyons would suggest that there's some kind of channelized flow.
Take the bubble camera.
We don't have
Okay.
that.
Yeah, we're not seeing that. It seems like all this really has pushed outward
Yeah.
and is slowly moving away from the seamount. In this case, it's moving eastward from the eastern side of the seamount. And then likely is happening on the other side as well. We haven't spent any time on the west side of the seamount yet.
Really?
Yet.
Like
Like
this
at the
feature?
apron. The
Okay.
apron on the west side. It only was mapped last year.
Oh, wow.
But there are some interesting looking cones and other things over there.
The management zone is quite large, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you approximately know the square mileage?
Oh, not off the top of my head, I don't.
I'll look it up.
If Chad were here, he would be able to say those very quickly off the top of his head. But yeah, there's a page on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary's website specific to the Davidson Seamount Management Zone. It's history of exploration here that helped us to identify important components of the geology and the biology that supported its addition to the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary as a new management zone.
I just looked it up. In 2008, the 775 square mile area was added to the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and that made the total area of the sanctuary 6,094 square miles large.
Thank
so
you.
this is actually a very small fraction
of the
of
whole
the entire
sanctuary? Oh,
sanctuary, yeah.
yes, yes. The sanctuary is quite large.
And we're looking at a very small fraction of
yes.
a very small fraction.
Yeah. Now, we haven't seen the sea floor in the vast majority of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary.
You can imagine it like taking a piece of computer paper and then a very fine point pencil and drawing a line on your paper, and that's about the extent of what we're able to get a visual observations on in this entire area.
Now, there are other portions of the sanctuary that have had a lot more study because they're much more accessible. So the rocky shores and the kelp forests and Elkhorn Slough Estuary.
Well, kelp forests itself, how do you explore those? Don't you have trouble getting like entangled within the kelp because they're so tall?
Oh, well, mostly that's done by scuba diving.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the work done in kelp forests in the sanctuary are done by scuba divers accessing the areas by shore or often by smaller vessels. And those are, you know, what is that? More
Ashley,
kelp.
gonna do a quick zoom?
Kelp is a plant,
Yeah.
so it lives in the photic zone, correct?
Oh, there's some urchins on
That's
it.
good.
Oh, yeah. So we often see when this type of food fall that's coming from the kelp is an attraction for the detritivores, the animals that eat
All right, go and come mine, please.
decomposing organic matter like sea urchins. We do see one sea pig there. Last year we found the main part of a kelp plant called the stipe, and it was just covered in sea pigs and urchins. It looked like they were having a little party.
Ain't no party
That
like a
looks
sea
like it
pig
might
party.
be a blade from a bull kelp or laminaria. huh?
Yeah. We have two different kinds of kelp, of the large canopy-forming kelps in the sanctuary. Nereocystis is the bull kelp, and it kind of looks like a bull whip, so it has a long
Okay, I'll take some.
stipe that extends from the seafloor to the surface with a big circular ball at the top that's full of gas, so
Thank
it
you.
floats, and then blades that trail off that look a lot like what we just saw. So that's the bull kelp, and then we have the giant kelp, which is kind of the iconic kelp that the kelp forests in Monterey are known for, where it has many blades coming off the entire length of the stipe.
Macrocystis pyrifera.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's very common in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary as well. Some of the best diving in the world. I might be biased, but
Might be.
The Nereocystis is a colder water kelp. We don't see it south of Point Conception unless it's drifting in the patties that come down through the channel.
What do you mean by patties?
So kelp is anchored to the seafloor by a structure called the holdfast, which kind of looks like a root system, but obviously isn't buried. It's anchored to the rocks, and that was the canopy of the kelp can get quite dense, and so with all of those bladders having all of that positive buoyancy on it, it puts a lot of stress on that, and then during the summer months it's also weakened, and then when the winter swells come, it sort of tears the kelp up a lot of times, and then that will drift, and so those form what we call kelp patties that drift down the channel, and they're really interesting when you're crossing the channel via a boat. You stop with them, there's tons of fish hanging out under them and seabirds on top of them. They act as little sort of refugia for a lot of organisms.
Great, thank you. So can I just
go ahead.
confirm, kelp is a plant, right? So it's different than what we've been seeing down here, and it needs to grow in the photic zone?
It photosynthesizes to form energy, but it's not considered part of the kingdom Plantae.
Yeah.
Really?
It's considered a protist, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not an animal.
It is not an animal, no. And that's,
but it's also not a plant.
yeah, it's a very interesting, again, in working in education, there are a lot of misconceptions about that. Very few people realize that there is an entirely different suite of primary producers out there called protists, which are responsible for a lot of the production of oxygen in the ocean. Most of them are microscopic. However, things like the giant kelp are quite macroscopic.
That's right. Now we do have a plant, and we've been seeing some evidence of that plant. That would be the seagrass.
And
Yes.
that's in the shallow regions
Yeah.
that we're
Yes,
talking
that's
about.
And there's
correct.
actually two types. There's the surf grass, which is very narrow, sort of like spaghetti, which, as its name indicates, is found in the rocky intertidal and in the surf zone. And then slightly deeper, and a lot of times in estuaries, is the eelgrass, which is a wider blade. Both of those are, in fact, flowering plants.
Yeah, and that eelgrass isn't limited to estuaries. I know that it is, there is some of it in Channel Islands National Marine
Yeah,
Sanctuary
I'd say it's around there
in
somewhere.
shallow sandy bottom.
Yep.
We don't
Yeah,
have as
I
much
mean-
of that in Monterey Bay Sanctuary. Most of
Yeah.
our is either surf
Argus right now
grass
is
in the
facing
rocky
a little upslope, so
intertidal
I'm
or
at least a little bit
eelgrass in estuaries.
off.
Yeah, and that subtitle eelgrass is a great nursery for one of Jennifer's favorite fish,
Yes.
certainly her fish of study. When I go diving out in the eelgrass beds, see a lot of juvenile flatfish hanging out there.
Yes. And a lot of other fish and little shrimp and crabs use eelgrass as a nursery.
Yeah, one of the coolest fish, my wife's favorite fish is the seahorse, actually the leafy sea dragon. However, our waters are too warm. Temperate waters generally don't have seahorses or sea dragons. However, we have their close relatives, the pipefish, which is sort of a stretched out, straight looking seahorse. They love hanging out in the eelgrass beds.
And they're hard to detect. I mean,
Yes.
they do a very good job of mimicking it
Yeah.
as camouflage.
Like a little piece of seagrass drifting around.
So can I ask a Van question? Is that all right?
A van question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so today is World Food Day. October 16th, and so I'm curious what our favorite foods are.
Oh, World Food Day.
Oh gosh.
Favorite foods.
We all know we like sushi, so that's...
I'm not a big sushi person,
except Jen.
but many of you like sushi. In the summertime, a really just perfectly ripe yellow nectarine, I think is just amazing. I love that tangy sweetness.
Yeah.
And you can only get good ones certain times of year, so you have to wait for it, which I think's nice.
Yeah.
So that's one thing on my list.
I really like chocolate mousse.
Yeah, you are ROV.
Oh.
Yeah. Magda?
I eat a lot of,
Magda.
I don't know, I eat a lot of bananas, so I guess that's my favorite food. Like, it's my go-to snack.
But do you love it?
Yes, I do.
Do you? All right, good.
They give you like 90 minutes of energy, apparently.
Oh,
Little
okay.
energy packs.
It's one of those perfect foods.
Well, I love that they have their own wrapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't travel that well. You have to be very careful. They
Yeah.
squish so easily and
Yeah,
bruise.
but I eat them like pretty much right away.
Okay.
So.
And it's not a good car food if you don't have somewhere to throw away the peel.
Right.
Because they really can just make your whole car smell like banana. But I know I've been kind of craving bananas out here. There haven't been any bananas. So like,
No.
I'd love to have a banana in the morning.
Scott, what's
Right
your
now.
favorite food?
I don't know if he heard you.
Scott,
Oh, what's that?
what's your favorite food?
Oh, yes. Food is my favorite thing.
Oh,
All of it.
All of it, everything.
must he pick from his children?
Oh my gosh. Popcorn is pretty high up there.
I love
Yes.
popcorn. Did
Yeah.
you see there's some microwavable popcorn?
Yes, we
I
do
On
have
did
board?
popcorn on board.
not.
So I think after this shift, we should have a little snack.
Yeah. But
For bed.
lately I have been really enjoying jicama.
What's
The li-
that?
It's
Wow.
like a
Thank you.
grows in the ground, sort of like I guess a root vegetable.
It's hard to explain.
Or
It's
but it-
definitely a storage. It's a energy storage part of that plant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Super crispy, a little bit apple-like, very apple-like in texture, sort of has a nutty flavor. I like cutting it into sort of French fry size strips, a little lime juice, and then tahine, which is a chili powder that goes on it. Super crunchy, good fiber. It's one of those sort of superfoods.
Are you talking about jicama?
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about favorite foods. Do you guys have
It's National Food Day today.
Oh, I see.
actually World Food Day?
I'm sorry, World Food Day.
Oh, that looks like a garlic root.
Yeah, but it's big. It's like the size of bigger than a turnip or a potato. About the size of a softball. Now I'm really hungry.
You ever tried to grow it? I don't know what it requires.
I haven't. It grows, I think, in warm, sandy areas, though. I think most of it comes from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, what about you? Favorite food?
Jicama is delicious. It's totally underrated. Thank you for bringing that up.
Shout out for jicama.
I love beets. I'm kind of a sucker for beets.
And this is the ship for you.
Can't beat them.
Scott, you were just full of jokes.
Well, I just looked up jicama, and did you know that it is actually a vining plant?
A vining plant. I did not know that.
And this is its edible tuberous root.
There you go.
Oh, how cool.
Can we zoom in on that sea star, please, while we're just floating by? It's
Did they
okay
ask
if we
for it?
miss it.
We can use
Oh,
those.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's
can't
fine.
really
You
hear you
guys
guys very well.
star. We can use those lasers to measure it too. Those lasers are 10 centimeters apart.
Yes,
Good
that's
video.
a good size star.
We happen to be going over a pretty barren part
I've
of this
seen-
feature. So this is a little bit of color.
Have you seen this one? We've seen something
Yeah.
like this before.
Yeah.
We've seen a few of these guys.
Yeah, but it's a really good size.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have much
Sorry.
competition out here.
A little bit close to the seafloor here.
Thank you for that zoom.
Right.
Nautilus Live Nation is weighing in on
You
the
better
foods.
zoom on this. Go ahead and try one more time.
Oh.
I wasn't happy with how bouncy it was.
Nice shot.
There we go. That's perfect.
And that tiny little sea urchin below it.
And a brittle star to the side and something
Under
underneath.
it. Yeah.
Maybe another brittle star under there.
a couple. You can
Maybe.
see its little.
Maybe
Or
eating.
no, those might be the tube feet of this sea star too. It's possible.
All right, go ahead and come right there, video.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what is Nautilus Nation? What's their favorite food?
We've got guacamole.
Oh,
on the
yes.
list.
Of course, without cilantro. I hope.
That's so good. I'm not
Doug
even.
in Texas.
Sounds good.
French toast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look at all the jellies. All of a
Jellies.
sudden, we hit a little jelly highway. Okay.
They're disembarking
making
from
good
the mothership.
Oh, here's waypoint 7.
Oh good. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Well, remind me again
back
what
here,
those
though. The
jellies
Ship's
are.
getting there.
Their ship's getting there. That's what I was gonna say. We're back
We're
here, but
very
the
far
ship,
behind it.
the ship is getting towards the next waypoint.
Well, if it's like a team effort, then the teams reach the spot. But if you go by like you're only as far as your weakest link, then maybe we're not that.
We're the weakest link.
No, we're not the weakest link. We're
Oh.
just when
we're
this
we're a lagging link.
Whoa,
one of the
we're
ROV
doing
pilots
fine, guys.
described Hercules as like the baby between two guardians that are Argus and the ship itself.
Remember, we're journey people.
We are when we're journeying right now.
Well, it sounds like some people in the back row are destination people.
Oh, no, I'm just journeying along to get to the next journey point. Oh, so we've got a large
fish.
grenadier and a small grenadier in that shot. Another one of those large sea stars. And again, just because we don't see things on the surface of the sediment does not mean there aren't things living there. There are many things that live buried inside the sediment. Some of them are small in fauna, and some of them are larger and may have, sometimes we'll see evidence that they're down there because there's a hole in the surface of the sediment. Sometimes we'll see like tube worms and just their proboscis is sticking out. So there are animals here. We can't, if we were to zoom in and really start poking around, we'd see more and more diversity.
I'm surprised that you said grenadiers have a fishery. How shallow can you find them?
Who said there was a fishery? Did
I thought someone said that you could eat grenadier or find it anyway. Maybe I'm mistaken.
I don't think so.
Maybe that's when I was sitting.
Maybe
in
a
on
different species
someone
of
else's.
grenadier? A shallower?
Not that I know of, but
Huh.
I think we're about to do a little web search back here to see more. So hold tight.
Given their depauperness down here, I would say it would not be a very sustainable fishery. Mike, what's your favorite food?
Oh, we've got a giant picnogona there we could look at. A giant
God, so much.
sea spider.
So much food.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking about it. Sushi definitely is right up there. Avocados, beets.
Oh, avocados. That sounds awesome right now.
Really good, like
Go ahead,
hearty
zoom in.
salads, like kale and like nuts and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Steak.
Oh,
Pasta,
steak.
all the food. So much
Yeah.
food.
There we go.
So this is a
Oh, look, he's got little hitchhiking isopods. Or those amphipods again. Which side are we looking at here? Let's see.
Yeah, so this is a sea spider for you
One of them
viewers.
looks like an amphipod and one looks like an isopod, but I'm
So what we're looking at are the little creatures on near the middle of this large sea spider, and whether or not these crustaceans appear like someone squished them along the sides of their body, or squished them from the top and bottom. These both look now to me squished from the sides, so I think they're both.
I see the second one too.
They're both amphipods.
Do you
They're
think
getting a little ride.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you think sea spiders have a ton of eyes like land spiders?